Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
How's it
How's it
going?
going? That's pretty good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Working hard. Um,
Glad to
how's
hear
how
that.
was the trip?
Oh, it's been good. Um, yeah, and it's pretty busy. Talking to all these people out here. Yeah, Jan pulled in this the CDAO team, and I don't know. I'm sure you've seen all the activity. Bayou, who I believe he led CDAO, he joined the CKB ecosystem fund, and yeah, he's doing a lot of events, and yeah, just talking through like coordination, and just trying to get my head around all this Bitcoin excitement, and just how like what the story is. And like Jan was saying, like, I don't know, when did he start tweeting this? Maybe 2 months ago now. Like, CKB is the ideal Bitcoin layer 2. And yeah, it's kind of like it's a weird concept at first, and then the more time you spend with it, it makes sense. I think there's still a lot of questions, but I think it's starting from a really good place.
Is there anything like in particular that stands out that helps make it make sense to you personally as being like a
Yeah,
good player too?
yeah. Don't add new trust assumptions. Um,
Hmm.
like the idea with say like Lightning, or I guess like ideally like the rollups is like you don't add new trust assumptions. And with RGB plus plus, yeah, I think that was another thing. A lot of talk about the name, and like how like in the West, like the Bitcoin like community is very different from in the East, and like just trying to get across like like my vantage point when all this RGB plus plus stuff popped up, and then these guys sharing on their end, and yeah. But anyway, um yeah, with RGB plus plus, you're just using, like, you're piggybacking on the consensus of Bitcoin, and like sure, like Bitcoin can reorg, and then you have to take some action based on, well, I guess you don't. Sorry, my words are getting all jumbled up. Yeah, the idea is that you're really just doing Bitcoin transactions, and you can do a transaction that says like, okay, now we're going to follow the CKB consensus for these assets. But if you're familiar with Counterparty, it's kind of that idea of like you're writing metadata to Bitcoin, and
Yeah.
then you're moving that those assets, which I think that there's still probably a lot of innovation needed to really like take that to the next level. But
Right.
if you look at the like it's better than a multi-sig bridge. I think the some of the like crypto economic ways of doing bridging, like threshold BTC or now BitVM, like those are really interesting. TBTC is more mature than BitVM. I think the idea is that the project eventually adopts some solution like this for actually wrapping Bitcoin. But right now, like the first step is just trustlessly moving around these like assets created in metadata. And if you look at like the rise of like ordinals or BRC20, like there is some healthy demand to create assets on top of Bitcoin. So yeah, I think the idea is piggyback on that, and then you know get into more exciting things like you know a good way of bridging Bitcoin, and plugging into Lightning so you can move that around.
Right. So no new trust assumptions is the key takeaway
Yeah,
there.
yeah. At least for this phase, I think when you, I think eventually people are going to say like, hey, like I want to do this with Bitcoin. And I think just because of the limits of Bitcoin, you have to introduce like some new trust assumptions. Fortunately, there's so many people working on it, and I think to CKB's benefit, it'll really, um, I think, shine because of like just the ecosystem that's been built up already. While um, I think every one of the projects, except for maybe Stacks and Rootstock, every one of those Bitcoin layer twos is kind of starting fresh, and yeah, I think like we both know like how long it takes to build like a robust community, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So, you said it's basically like similar to just the way other solutions just write metadata on Bitcoin, um, and metadata is just data about data, right?
Yeah, and then
So,
you take
yeah.
those, you take like proof of those transactions to CKB, and then you can do like a state transition on your UTXO on CKB based on the
Mm,
transaction that was processed on Bitcoin. So like that, like the UTXO on CKB only moves with say 6 confirmations of the
right.
transaction on Bitcoin. And like this gets into like the magic of like UTXOs of like literally like your lock script is just like, did this thing happen on Bitcoin?
Hmm. That's amazing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also like it seems simple and really intuitive way of a trustless solution. And there's lots of projects like Chainlink which want to be like the king of interoperability, but
Mm-hmm.
Chainlink arguably adds trust assumptions because of the multi-sigs that control the
Yeah.
price speeds and stuff. So it's really interesting to see trustless solutions come out, and who knows, maybe it'll like radically change the way the whole ecosystem interoperates.
Yeah, I think there's it's another like abstraction play of like, you know, like the idea of like, okay, like all, we can mint like a Nervos University coin on Bitcoin, and then that can be moved around on CKB. Um, I don't know. It's like that in itself is not that exciting, but the low level primitive of like you can do things on Bitcoin, you can verify those things on CKB, and like you can flip back and forth like whenever you want, and like whatever you contain in that metadata is pretty much just up to you, and whatever happens on CKB based on that metadata is completely up to you. Like there's a lot of work needed to actually make it like meaningful. Unfortunately, there's so much hype right now that you know we'll I guess we're not kind of gated by like that fact. Everyone's just like, oh, there's this new thing, we're really excited about it. But in my opinion, like it really there really is a door that's opened here, and it's just one more step. And fortunately, it's been one where people have seen that there's a market demand for this kind of stuff, and it's something that CKB can do just relatively seamlessly. So I'll add one more thing here is through this process, like the whole idea of like CKB verifying the consensus of other chains has come up because you have to check the consensus of Bitcoin to to do this. So it's like you could extend that to Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SB as well. And now you could have like transactions on these different chains, like they're sharing this kind of common place on CKB, which I really don't know where that leads. But it looks like we could even with CKB you could even verify the consensus of Dogecoin and Litecoin as well, which we've never seen before. It's like people have done like SPV things for Bitcoin, but never for Doge and Litecoin. And to me that's really exciting because I didn't even realize that it would be possible to do, but it seems like it's okay. So right there you have theoretically 5 different like brand name chains that all could share like a place where things that happen on them could affect things that happen on CKB. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's
that's
crazy,
awesome.
right?
It's
Yeah.
it's it's really like the branching out to like the multiverse phase of
Yeah,
Nervos's ecosystem. So it's like it's waking up to what's happening on other chains and becoming like aware of that. And now like
yeah,
what happens on Bitcoin can affect what happens on Nervos, and that's like
yeah,
real interoperability right there. And
yeah,
if you can do that with while minimizing trust, I mean, it's like the holy grail.
yeah. I think so. One thing that came up, I guess it was probably like a week ago. We were talking about common knowledge, and the thing that I see in this is like each blockchain like creates common knowledge like within its own domain, and like you know, we all know like the common knowledge of Bitcoin, and within Bitcoin it has that common knowledge, and then when you say move over to Litecoin, then like you have the Litecoin common knowledge, and like sure the whole world knows like Litecoin and Bitcoin are common knowledge, but within Bitcoin and Litecoin they don't know about the common knowledge of each other. And
Right.
the thing I see with CKB is that through this kind of SPV verification, it can like merge those bodies of common knowledge. And
Right. Right.
yeah,
I
and
don't
like
know.
I don't go ahead.
No, no, you're good. Sorry.
Yeah, it seems like for proof of work, with these kind of like relatively simple to verify hash functions, like it's straightforward. I think when you get into proof of stake, it's more complicated, but it seems like there's probably a way eventually that you get proof of stake things in here. I don't know, there's some teams doing great work with like ZK proving of I guess the consensus signatures. But like eventually, I think we probably get to a world where like all this stuff is ZK proven for the POS chains, and then like we could see eventually like like it's like crazy theoretical thing of like CKB can verify the consensus of everything, and
Yeah.
like that idea of just making like these disparate bodies of common knowledge like
Right.
all like universal common knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I think that then you've got to work on how you affect like say something happens on CKB, so something happens on Bitcoin as a result, and like what do those mechanisms look like? But I think with UTXOs it seems relatively possible, and then with on the account side, all the stuff they're doing around intents will probably like surface these kind of like mental models too. But the concrete thing that we know now is that like CKB is like has the ability to make all these different chains, or at least 5 chains theoretically right now, like
Mm-hmm.
common knowledge in a single place. And that's it's new. Like no other chain has done this before that I'm aware of. Like I know on Ethereum they had a Bitcoin Lite client for some time. I know Definity they're trying to do some stuff with like holding, like I guess Definity and Near have this thing of like doing multi-party computation to hold like assets on other chains, but like as far as like actually verifying the consensus, I haven't really
Mm-hmm.
seen much. Like I think we'll probably see more of it. Like I know there's this BOB project that they they do like merge mining with they're a layer 2. They do merge mining with Bitcoin, and then also they do SPV verification of the Bitcoin headers on Ethereum as like two like doubling the security, something like that. But anyway, yeah, we should go into yeah, I guess any common knowledge stuff or anything else you want to like jump off.
Well, I guess that it made me think about like yeah, no one has really done any of this like universal common knowledge consensus or like universal consensus or whatever. Um, and it's like people have tried to do stuff that is like a meta consensus chain that
Mm-hmm. Like
you,
quant, is that kind of what you're getting at there?
yeah, like Quant or like Cardano like wrote a paper called like Minotaur or something like that
Yeah,
a couple
yeah.
of years ago, and that was trying to do like a proof of work, proof of stake hybrid meta chain that would just basically like record the like consensus, the state consensus of like every other chain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's and then you mentioned intense, and I didn't even think about that. Like, a lot of these things are all coming to into play at the same time.
Yeah,
RGB plus plus, intense, um, just more and more account abstraction, more and more like abstraction in general, and then like just automation and like making smart contracts smarter. It's like I think
yeah,
we're not seeing how it's getting ready to go like hyperbolic growth.
yeah. I think everyone is not everyone, but there's a number of teams now that they're kind of like they've gone like sufficiently down like the multi-chain rabbit hole. So like the chain abstraction thing that Near is like harping on now. Like part of that is motivated by people from the Cosmos community, and the Cosmos community really popularized Intense. Um, this was like similar time frame to Tanner with Validity. So I don't know if he was hanging out with those guys or maybe just multiple people coming to the same ideas. But the the reasoning there, I mean, I think Tanner's just like a brainiac, so I could see him just kind of seeing a problem. But on the Cosmos side, they they have so many chains to work with, and that's really where I see like Intents have come in. Of like they always have this idea of like IBC will be like you do something on this chain, then another chain sees a proof of it, does something else, and then Intents have been like a formalization of like how do you really like make this like look user friendly, so the people are just saying like I want this to happen, and
Right.
yeah, I mean, it just from the CKB side, it's like this idea of like abstracting these things um, was I guess Jan popularized this vision a few years back now, and that became the universal passport. Um, I always had this idea that TKB could like verify like the cryptography from other chains, whether that's like consensus or
Mm-hmm.
transactions, signatures, things like that. Like I always saw that as like CKB could like arbitrate things that are happening between different chains because it has that universality. But it seems like there's just been enough projects that have grown that people have realized like this is a real UX challenge. Like people just want to say like move my money here and do this. Like they don't want to have to think about like what
Right.
chain is it on? What like wrapping path did it take? Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like we would probably have a lot more to figure out before we get there, but definitely like the market is coming to like the kind of things that we've been like trying to chip out for a long time.
Yeah, the markets are definitely converging on these ideas that you guys originally came up with and wanted to push, like cross-chain communication, like a base settlement layer, like better abstraction. And I think you're right, like about it being a user experience problem. Most people I'm trying to onboard into crypto, like you said, they don't care about which chain it's on. They just want low fees. They want an intuitive interface. They want it to be like quick, easy, and painless.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna get like the masochists who lived in like this pre-abstraction era of like crypto interoperability, who had to go through like the painstakings of like multiple bridges and high fees and stuff
Hmm.
like that. You're not going to get that many diehard people in the general
Yeah.
public. It needs to be easy. um,
Yeah, I mean, even like you can make money with this. It's like that I think drew in like it kind of like exhausted like the number of people you're gonna draw in with that because like you can make money with lots of things. Like some people like real estate, some people like stonks. Like it's like it at some point you're gonna exhaust the number of people where it's like oh you can make money with this. Like look, you just have to jump through these hoops, and like it really has to be yeah, it
yeah,
has to be easy.
yeah, yeah. Because there was a time where you could say like, well, I
Yeah,
still do to an extent. I say like, I tell like I got my dad invested in crypto a few years ago, and he would complain about all the hoops we had to jump through to get assets that we wanted. And I'm like, look, the
yeah,
reason that they're low price and are a good like value opportunity is because they're so hard to find and get right for the
Mm-hmm.
time being.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they're easily accessible, it will it'll pay off that you got in early and went through the really difficult hoops. So I
This is
think
the reason that people want Coinbase listings so much because they're
yeah,
just easy
yeah,
and simple
yeah,
to see.
definitely. I wanted the Coinbase listing because it would make exchanging CKB easier because there's not many American exchanges I can really use for
Yeah.
CKB. But I used Joy ID this week a few
Mm.
times to do swaps, and it was pretty sweet. I mean, I'm used to using internet like escrow websites to trade dollars for Bitcoin and stuff like that. Um, so I think to like the average person, it would have seemed kind of annoying to like ask to swap, and then they ask you to send CKB to this address, and then once this address confirms that they got it, they'll send you your USDT.
Yeah.
Um, like to me, that's second nature, but to a noob, they might think that's a little confusing. But like they'll figure it out if they want to. But my point being is that I was I was struggling to convert CKB for a few
Mm.
weeks because I hadn't used exchanges in a while. I hadn't
Yeah.
used CKB on exchanges in a while. So I finally just tried the swap on Joy ID and it was pretty awesome. I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah. Fortunately, the support is. I think it's getting better as like we see like CKB is no longer like number 300. It's like number one or something, and like that. Yeah, I think that helps. I mean I think that it's such a long journey, but yeah, just like these little things of like ubiquitous support for the
Yeah.
coin and like wallets.
Yep,
Yeah,
you
I
need
mean
good liquidity.
yeah, it's a reason why Bitcoin and ETH are like so far ahead of like the other
Hmm.
chains. Is like 'cause it's just everywhere and anywhere. And even something like Solana for as like cutting edge and like innovative as it is, like it's still like you get into those things where it's like it's just not dead simple to just like okay, what wallet do I use? Like not to say that Solana wallets are difficult to use, but if you type in like Solana
Yeah.
wallet in an app store, it's going to be very different from like Ethereum wallet or Bitcoin wallet. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I've been using I started using Solana to just check out the user
the meme
experience, see if
coins.
it lived up
Yeah,
to what everyone was saying it did.
yeah.
Um, yeah, the meme coins. I just wanted to try it out because you have to like you have to call things what they are, and like
Mm-hmm.
Solana is definitely like the go-to like gambling chain,
Mm,
aside from like
yeah,
maybe BNB, and I don't mean that in a mean way. Like casino gambling, sports betting, it's completely legalized. Like I don't see an ethical problem with it as long as you know you're gambling. But
mm-hmm.
I see like hundreds of meme coins launching every single day on Solana, and like the swap fees are like they're so low. I don't even know how much they are because they're probably like
Yeah, it's just after the
one
zeros.
thousandth of a cent or something. It's just a bunch of zeros, and it confirms probably within like 3 seconds any swap.
Yeah,
And there's you always have to be aware that the chain could just like randomly shut down again.
yeah.
Um, so you always have to accept that trade off. But it really is like it is what people told me it was, which was just like an
Mm-hmm.
easy way to like do day trading because the fees were insignificant. Um, and yeah, I was pretty happy using it. Like even though Solana isn't one of my, not even in like my top 10 favorite chains, I
Mm-hmm.
probably enjoyed using it more than eight of them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think yeah, they've definitely got that vision of like it's just easy to use. It's for consumers.
Yeah.
But the it diverges a bit. I don't know. I guess they've like they've modernized it over the years. But I remember like their narrative used to be like Anatoly would talk about how like with these financial markets, like you need this single settlement layer where all the liquidity was, and you couldn't be fragmented on L2s, and like kind of talked about it as like you're going to build like a global financial system on here. Like this will be the substrate for the global economy because you have this one layer and like all the assets are here and like everything's, you know, composable. And then now it's kind of shifted to like disrupting the app store. It's like much more like
Mm.
consumer kind of facing rather than like that idea of like encompassing B2B. Um, so I don't know where it will be. I'm really interested to see them like max it out. Like I retweeted a thing today, somebody talking about the fees are going up, which reminded me a lot of BNB, like BNB for like years, or even, you know, Polygon similar. It's like they like, you know, used to beat their chest about, oh, you know, low fees, you know, Ethereum sucks, like we have low fees, and like
Yes.
eventually like, you know, users come and the fees go up, and it seems like, you know, this bull market, the same thing will happen to Solana. Um, it I don't know about DeFi, man. I think it's like it as long as there's arbitrage opportunities there, you get into like this HFT kind of like
Yeah.
world, and
Yeah. Well, you know,
yeah,
that's what Jay Berg from SidePit is always
yeah,
talking about. That's why he's
yeah,
trying to build like an anti front running um
yeah,
exchange. It's pretty
and
cool.
all those little transactions, like, you know, in Ethereum before they had the everything runs through different relays and, you know, builders. It was like you have like massive proportions of the block being like taken up by these people trying to arbitrage and just a bunch of failed transactions.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if you can have failed transactions in like an efficient fee market. I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sure, like, I think we're gonna get like a UTXO DeFi world eventually, and I'm sure it'll be like a world of problems in and of itself. But I hope that like solving those problems leads to, I guess, less problems. But I feel like with MEV and account models, it just seems like every time you solve a problem, like two more pop up, and then you just kind of recurse through that. And I haven't seen like any light at the end of the tunnel for this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like I keep talking about like arbitrage a bit. I mean, no, sorry, not arbitrage. I keep talking about front running and MEV a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's proof that, like you said, you try to solve something and two more problems come up that you then have to deal with and so on. But I've learned that you can just kind of like um, a lot of people just accept that it's happening to
Mm-hmm.
them, like in the
Yeah.
same way that like they know the traditional financial systems screwing them over, but they use it
Yeah.
anyway. So it's like a success and a failure at the same time. And that's how I
Yeah.
feel about DeFi at the moment.
Yeah. I think like for what it accomplished. I mean, if you think about like the world like prior to, you know, Vitalik, like it
Mm,
it definitely is like a monumental change. You know, like that like shift toward doing DeFi. I mean, I think it's yeah. I mean, I take issue with the architecture of it all, but you know,
mm,
it's that really is like an after the fact kind of criticism. Like, you know, you could like you couldn't have these kind of criticisms before
mm.
because like this world didn't even exist. Like they invented it. It's like, you know, like criticizing DeFi. I don't know. I guess I should like retract some ideas of criticism. It's like criticizing like Bitcoin's relationship to fiat. It's like you
Yeah.
just created an alternative, you know, and like sure it's not perfect, but yeah, like that's what Ethereum and then I guess everyone that followed it, like they just created this ability to have a parallel financial system. I
Hmm.
think like the yeah, I think as a, you know, in my like user mind, yeah, you just accept that these things are happening in the background. But I think a bigger concern is just the centralizing dynamic of it all. Of like with like HFT in, you know, in Wall Street, it like centralizes into like these points, and people try to like jockey for this, like, you know, closest to the different points of order flow, and, you know, to submit to the exchanges. And like it seems like in the Ethereum world, it's like the same thing is happening, where it's like you have like, you know, like either relays or validators, like that ability to just kind of skim a little bit out of everything, like leads
Yeah.
to people like kind of fighting for those positions. And I don't
Yeah.
know. It seems like they're at constant war to kind of balance that out. So I think I see that as more the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I see it as in some way like a threat to like the peer-to-peer nature of it. Because if
Hmm.
someone's in a position where they can always skim off the top, there's a hierarchy again. And
Yeah.
we were trying to create like flat and neutral systems. So I
Yeah.
think it should be, I think the problem should be taken more seriously. Because if they were taking it more seriously, we probably would have had like working solutions in progress right now that are like
Yeah.
mainstream.
So I can say one, I guess one possible solution is Chia has the idea of expiring. I guess they're like expiring transactions, so you can do like partial transactions, or in the CKB world, open transactions. Bitcoin world, it's partially signed transactions. You basically like say like I will sell, say like 100 USDT for point
Uh-huh.
oh oh whatever BTC until this block height, and then this transaction expires, and then you sign another one that says I will sell at this rate until this block height, and then that transaction is expired. So you basically have like this off chain order book that gets built, and that's completely peer to peer. Like I'm sure a market maker or somebody can like find some, I guess introduce some efficiency into the market there with arbitrage, but it's not the same as like doing this on an AMM or doing it on chain, because the trading is peer to peer, and like the person is always like I guess setting the terms of exactly how the order will fill.
So why isn't AMM not peer to peer? Do you have any idea?
Mm. Well, you put all your money, like all the money goes into the same pot, and then like
Mm.
I come to the pot and I'm like, hey, like I want to do this, and like somebody else can like step in front of me and say like I want to do this, and then that's going to affect what I'm about to do. So it's like it's like peer to contract, not peer to
Right,
peer.
right. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how like Aave lending works. You put
Hmm.
stuff into lending pools. You're not directly lending from one person to another at like variable rates.
Yeah, I think these things, like it takes time to appreciate like what the trade offs are. Like the initial like x times y equals k thing was like a magic formula, and then people discovered impermanent loss,
Yeah,
and
and then some
maybe
serious
there's more.
M&E.
Yeah, maybe there's some more down that rabbit hole. Honestly, like my brain doesn't really take the DeFi all that well, so I'm not a good person to comment on it all.
Yeah, see that I
It's
think
just
it's funny.
too many things like in working memory, man. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I think like it's because my breakthrough year in like really feeling confident in my understanding of blockchain was when DeFi was getting popularized.
Hmm.
So I was fresh enough to the scene, like somewhat educated, but also still open enough to like try the new things. And
Hmm.
I just dove so deep, and like even in permanent loss, like there's a lot of like there's really a lot of nuance in the impermanent
Hmm.
loss discussion about like how bad it really is,
Hmm.
how you can mitigate it through either through mechanisms or just straight up incentives and subsidies. Like there is a lot of nuance to it, and I just think it's funny because like you have a sort of restraint, like a somewhat like conservative restraint towards DeFi, and then I sort of just like married it for a few years. So we had pretty
Yeah,
opposite reactions.
yeah. I mean, part of it's appetite for risk too, of like
Yeah,
seeing like even like the like when I guess when Maker first started with Dai, I remember like being asked like like are you gonna put money, like are you gonna collateralize money to mint Dai, and like to me like the smart contract risk was like too much, like even
yeah,
like I remember like seeing did a meetup with Maker like years ago, and like seeing it, like absolutely just like blown away seeing like what they could do, but like that idea of just being risk averse, I was like no, like I don't like just that idea of like you have like you have an asset, you know exactly how it's going to function, and then you're going to like in search of yield, you're going to put it into this system that is like
yeah.
yeah, it's still, you know, experimental at the time. Even like when DeFi summer started, you know, it's like the things got complicated. Yeah, but honestly, I don't know. Maybe it just helps me sleep better at night to not have to like worry about things getting complicated, you know, and just like that. That's why like I don't know. Bitcoin is great. I always got attracted to Bitcoin as a technology for moving around money, but like just the asset itself, I think is great just in its simplicity. Like, you know, anyone can listen to Michael Saylor and just be like, oh, I can buy this pet rock, and like,
Right.
you know, other people can understand why they would buy it as well. And I don't know, the you know the you know, simple things. You know, like there's certain real power to simple things.
Yeah. I think like a real good mainstream DeFi app is one that could accurately calculate a risk factor in real time based off of what your possible like investment choices are. So you just have like a vault, like a yield vault aggregator
Mm-hmm.
that you basically just put in your coins, whatever coins you have, and then
Mm-hmm.
um, you go for the yields that you're looking for according to risk. So like once you get past like 5%, it gives you a warning that like the risk is like relatively high. Are you willing to
Mm-hmm.
accept that? Um, and then just like in the background, it's doing all those like cross, like like those like the DeFi building blocks, like cross protocol, like yield pollination that happens like all over the space, where it's like you plug like staked ETH into Aave, and then like get the um, future yields from it off of Pendle. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's just so many like rehypothecations you can do with your base collateral, and people just should be able to be aware that they're getting riskier the deeper they go into it. But like
Yeah.
I would just say this, like I think considering the current conditions of DeFi and what the past has shown us, I would not recommend someone having their whole net worth in DeFi yet.
No.
It's way too early for that. There's just too much risk, inherent risk.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to estimate long tail risk, and I feel like
Yeah,
it's not the risk that like some say like if you had like a CDO, and it's like they like chop it up, so it's like, okay, if this like tranche like defaults, then like you know, like, okay, maybe you'll lose 5-10%, something like that, and you can kind of like box in like the probability of that happening. But
yeah,
with DeFi, it really is just like there's like some risk in like the spectrum of possibilities that results in you losing everything, and it's like that is really hard to like accurately gauge like how do I price this risk. Um, and
yeah,
the best way I can think of doing it is just limiting complication of like what you're doing.
yeah,
Because it seems like the Kyber hack was like, okay, you had like a rounding, there's like a rounding something that's happening somewhere, and then there was another one, maybe it was 2 months ago, and um they pulled, you know, 2.4 million or something out of a DeFi thing due to a rounding error. And it's like,
wow.
you know, it's such like simple thing, and not simple things, high precision things. And
Yeah,
yeah, I just don't, you know, I guess that kind of like shows like my I guess appetite for risk here is that like
right.
it's like I can't calculate what the actual risk is. Like it doesn't seem like there's any way to do it. So it's like you have to like kind of have like an ape kind of mindset. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it kind of, yeah.
I totally agree because like my risk factor is so high because like I'm my mentality is sort of like being a pioneer with a death wish. So like to me, DeFi is still like this dark Mediterranean forest full of like dangerous animals and booby traps.
Yeah.
Like the amount of risk involved in using it, and like I don't think the average like like middle curve user should be like really putting serious money into it at all. Like one of my friends tried to get serious into crypto. I helped him invest, and then he started making money, and then like right when he was up like 10x or like
Mm-hmm.
1,000%. His like wallet got hacked,
Shit.
and I'm like, yeah, well, don't download fake wallets from Apple Store. Lesson learned. But
That's crazy.
the risk is
Yeah.
everywhere.
I mean,
It's not just like
yeah.
contract exploits or rounding errors or stuff like that. It's also as simple as like a phishing attack.
Yeah.
It's irreversible.
Well, there's you could do clawback things I guess again like stressing like the value of UTXOs. You could have a lock script that like has clawback conditions in it.
Yeah,
I don't know how complicated it gets to implement this, but like you could have something that says like if these coins move like with this key, like you know you have to like you're forced to use a lock script like in the next iteration that with this other key you have 3 weeks to like pull it back. So like it I don't think the scope of engineering of this kind of thing is like really high. um, but in these kind of cases like it makes a huge difference. And yeah, account model like you're never going to be able to do that. I mean maybe yeah, I don't think there's any way. I mean, even if you have, smart contract wallets, something like that, like I don't think there is a way that you're going to be able to say like if these assets move, like I can get them back. Like it has to be implemented in those contracts that implement the assets.
yeah. I think clawbacks are really cool because you can either make it like you can have it either way on that kind of blockchain, where you can have your assets to be irreversible and mutable if that's what you choose, or you can add like certain restrictions or contingencies or different parameters that must be met in order for the
Yeah.
assets to be moved. And it's just like it's customizable security. You can add as many extra layers of protection as you want to like mitigate long tail risk, I guess.
Yeah, and you still get, from like counterparty risk, like you still get the same like you're still starting with the same base of like we know that this is an immutable system and like the conditions that are set in it will always hold.
Right.
So it's like if I know if I can see that in your lock script, so you have to publish these lock scripts, they have to be well known. If I see that you have a 2 week clawback condition, you send me funds, like I know I can hold those goods for 2 weeks until the transaction actually clears. And
Yeah.
like that, I know with Chia, this was a thing that Bram Cohen talked about a lot. In the early days, like before they had a live network and like hundreds of thousands of people, like, hey, you got to make the coin go up. Like simple things like this were like important like steps forward. And
Mhm.
yeah, I guess going back to our daily work of shilling CKB, like it's like it is all just there, and we're really just waiting for people to take advantage of all this capability that's there. And man, I don't know, it just gets more exciting every day.
I
It's
know.
crazy. It doesn't seem like it should be like this. Like it seems like there should be more of kind of like people learn about a project, oh, it's cool, then like hype kind of dies down, and like there's 10 other projects that you could argue
Yeah.
do the same thing, but it's like it just isn't the case here. It just kind of continues like rolling on.
Yeah. I
And
feel like it probably seems like it shouldn't feel like this because we've been dealing with that for so many years of
yeah,
people just like not getting like too interested in it. Whereas like now when there's like insane amount of interest like daily and it seems like compounding daily and like
yeah,
everywhere you look it's just like CKB's
it's the
awareness
flywheel.
and brand is
It's
growing. Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah,
just been I think it's just finally like happening. Knock on wood. I don't want to jinx that, but that's just what it
yeah.
feels like.
No, but I mean, it is so much work. I mean, I think that's like not like, of course, like everything we're talking about, like in the past, like there's so much work that's been done. But in terms of like realizing like what the potential of all this, like we talk about clawbacks, things like that, like I think there's so much to work to be done that you really do need like this like crowd that really wants to see this thing succeed. But yeah, I think it is the flywheel. I mean, I've been it's almost like surprised at like the way like I guess animal spirits I guess would be the right word. Just like that market driven like thing of like, everyone was indifferent to CKB before, and then not everyone, but there were, shout out to all the people who bought CKB, it's 0.003 or 0.004 during during those bear markets. Like, there are people that saw this, like, holy shit, like this is a great project. This is going to be good.
Yeah, well,
But
like
there was a
conviction.
lot of indifference in market sentiment, and that changed.
Yeah, I just noticed that conviction really pays off. Like
Yeah,
people, a lot of people
yeah.
bought the dip for CKB like big time. Um, and what I learned from like community tokens is you can't sit on your ass and like ask the team to do literally everything under the sun because they have their own objectives. Like if you want to spread awareness, you have like a Twitter account and a phone, like nobody's stopping you. And I've seen in these like community coins that no one's getting paid. Everyone's just buying the coin and then going out on Twitter and spreading the word about it and like growing the community. So it's all just like it's a like I was going back to what I was trying to say is that the people who like bought the dip of CKB probably saw this momentum coming ahead of time and they really believed in it because like no one no one in their right minds buys like a dying chart unless they know that the protocol and the asset has potential for growth.
Yeah, I think the ideas of the project really are the thing. I mean, I think I've probably said this more times than I can count at this point. Of like, it really is like that positioning paper, those articles, like people are buying the project because of those ideas. Like, of course, like maybe they see the people involved, or like they see the GitHub, and they're like, okay, like this is great. But I think really what builds that conviction is just like these ideas make sense. And I think it's what drew me in. I could see it's probably what drew you in, and like that to me like seems like a system that like socially scales, where it's not really about like the execution of one particular team. It's about like the ideas of this network and like how it will all function at scale, like at global scale, at
Yeah,
billions of stakeholders. Like that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I
once
think
it
big.
starts, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Once
I
it
was gonna say
starts
Bitcoin
actually,
is one of the only things that I can think about that compares.
I think that there's actually there's merit to that idea that people like actually believe in something and then it finally clicks with them. Because once
Mm-hmm.
something actually really clicks with a person, it becomes real in their mind, and then it's like real in the world, and they can see how it can fit into the things going on in crypto, and then
Mm-hmm.
if they're willing and capable and driven enough to like talk about it on social media, that's when that like flywheel starts happening, and then
Mm-hmm.
you see new blood in the community, and then like the OGs are always there to help them out. Like Nervos Nation has put in like incredible work during the bear market, and it's all paying off. Like
Yeah.
they sowed a lot of the seeds on like the western side of Twitter to get to garner this kind of awareness, so that when you talk about Nervos, your tweet gets like dozens of likes
Mm-hmm.
over like the span of a day. Like it's crazy how much engagement happens, even
Yeah.
if you're like a newbie. But yeah,
Yeah. No, it's one of those things that you definitely can take for granted that this happened. It's just it's like I think we are still like very much like a humble community, but like if you look at kind of like how we have scaled, like man, like definitely nothing was promised there. Like when you look at you got 40, 50 people just consistently like on it on a daily basis, like
yeah,
those are really like that's like a 0 to 1 kind of difference, and like we
yeah,
we know that it will scale from here because like the 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 um I guess highest probability of failure kind of phase has been passed through. And like sure, like we'll have stumbling blocks, like things will blow up, like things will go wrong. Like that's just the nature of all this. But like really like kind of crossing the chasm of indifference, like I think we're pretty well past it. Yeah, it's yeah. I feel like there's still gonna be, we still may have some like shocks ahead of us where people are like, oh, like I thought this was gonna be able to do this, and you guys said, and I thought this, and like now it looks like it's gonna take so long. Like I think that's just the nature of things, and but I think really like the conviction that's there, and like even just like the community mechanisms of like that ability for like the community to kind of like process proposals and kind of weed through like, this makes sense, this doesn't, like that, that like self-governance, I think, is a huge part of being able to socially scale too.
Yeah, I mean, this whole like project just scaled out in all sorts of directions over the years.
Yeah.
Like nothing I ever could have imagined or anticipated. Like you said, it's like I think we're way beyond that point of indifference, or that like
Mm-hmm.
that bridge to getting to like actual like compassion towards the project from the ecosystem. Like we're definitely we're definitely seeing signs that Nervos is here to stay. I
Mm-hmm.
think like, I'm looking at so like the price is not at its all time high yet because of block rewards that have happened over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But like market cap's basically at all time high right now.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's actually crazy. Like I mean you have to be able to see what's happening right in front of you if you want to be awake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's so obvious. Like the chart for like the utility coin that powers the whole network has gone
Mm-hmm.
like completely vertical, and you can see it like usage of the network just like going like
Yeah.
pretty vertical too. So it's not all speculation. There's probably
Mm-hmm.
some of it that's still, or a good amount of it that's still speculation, but I think it's like it's somewhat connected to the usage that's been taking place, and people are anticipating much more usage to come.
Yeah, I think like the foundation like takes the most time, and like the basement of the house, like digging the hole and like laying a foundation, like everyone just kind of takes that for granted. People want to just walk into the house, and like the thing that I see, especially for people like coming in now, is like a lot of that kind of stuff that would just take years, and you're like, why does it have to take so long? Like a lot of that's like been in progress, and like we're like seeing it bear fruit at this point. So like examples I can think of is like CKB auth, which we still need to get through another hard fork to actually activate. But like that idea of like you can just integrate this library and just any user can come with any wallet. You still got to set up the front end stuff on your site, but like just under the hood, like on the chain, it's like a very nice way of like taking care of that. Like, that took years to kind of like understand, like, how do we do this so that it works nicely? And like, even like .bit had to forge a lot of ground to develop a system that looks and feels like that, but isn't elegantly implemented, on CKB in a way that makes it easy for developers. And we have like co-build coming now, which is I guess open transactions. Like, users and dApps can collaborate to form a single transaction. Like the first time that was posted to the forum was prior to the chain even launching, I think, or around the same time frame, 4+ years ago. And it's like, okay, we finally have something that people feel some degree of confidence is actually going to be the thing that sticks around. And it's like that is, both those things, like such like an incalculable amount of time spent to sort through these issues. And like, once you get there though, you just kind of stand on that firm ground and go from there. And yeah, like another shout out to the people who all came on board in the long bear market.
Yeah, yeah, I know it takes some serious guts to do something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it has to do with belief and truly understanding something. Like you're not gonna give up on your beliefs unless you're just really messed up. But even like
Yeah.
even our haters, I don't know if they just like gave up on tweeting negative things about us, or they're just getting absolutely drowned out by all the positivity. But I haven't seen them in like weeks.
Yeah, the CK bites. I feel like I almost went on his Twitter the other day and just like, hey, like when is the redemption arc? Like it would be great. Like I'm reminded of like someone who buys Bitcoin at like an all time high, and then just like they're just so disgusted by it, like they don't even like look at it as they watch it kind of like bleed to zero, you know, and they're
Yeah,
just like, oh, it's terrible, but they don't sell, like they're just like, all right, just screw it. And then like 4 years later or whatever, like bull market comes again, and all of a sudden like they're up, they're actually up, and like I can see like on a long enough timeline with CKB, like that can also probably be true even for the like darkest of the haters. Like eventually it's like, okay, this all, the rising tide lifts all boats. And yeah. I
yeah. I
hope
mean,
so.
like the 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 haters have to stop eventually. Like you know, you can't ignore something forever. You can try. I mean, but like let's just do a hypothetical where CKB and Nervos are so mainstream. It's actually the like uh meta like universal common
Hmm.
knowledge chain,
Yeah.
and like everyone knows about it. It's like every single person you talk to or interact with in crypto is going to have positive things, most likely positive things to say about CKB, unless they're just like
Hmm.
have some unresolved personal issues with it. Um,
Hmm.
like any rational person would be like saying nice things. So like someone like CK Bytes wouldn't be able to live without having to either get in arguments with everyone he knows, or like he's just gonna like I said, like I don't want to pick on him, but like it applies to a lot of people who are just like can be haters about something, and yeah, eventually you have to accept it. It's not going away. Especially
Like the go ahead. Sorry, I don't cut you
well, especially if their main criticism is basically that number keeps going down.
off. Yeah.
It's like, well, numbers up. Are you happy now? Oh, you cheated your bag. You don't have any. That's right. Like,
Well, like I don't know if you ever heard the phrase, there's a thin line between love and hate. And I see that with CK Bytes of like, I remember I was
yeah,
going through like old files one day, and it was like a tutorial about using CKBPW that he had created. Like he was like a firm believer in the project, and like
yeah,
like he just lost hope. And like I see that, and it's just like, sure, like to really like be like such a strong hater, like it has to come from somewhere, right? Like it can't just
yeah,
be like, oh, I bought this thing one time, screwed these people. Like there's much more conviction there. And yeah, I think that to me leads to the makings of the redemption arc. But
yeah.
um
I mean, like,
CKB it's always designed to be just infrastructure. So it's like, over time, like these things will be much less associated with like the foundation or the people who started or like early people. It's just like, okay, it's just going to be existing. And like people mine it, people own it, people use it, settle to it. And it's just like, it's not, it's just going to evolve into a very different kind of thing from where it started.
yeah, yeah. So it's like it eventually isn't even the thing that you were hating on to
Exactly.
begin
Yeah.
with. Um. So yeah, yeah. I think everyone like deserves a redemption arc. You know, like
Yeah. No, I
some
agree.
people try to tell me that like there's some people that aren't worth saving and you can't save, and it doesn't make sense to me. I don't really believe
Hmm.
that.
I think those things can be very subjective. Like in like those things come from like I don't know. It's someone's experience, whether like they have already invested enough effort in one person that they say like, okay, like I'm done, or if they have already invested enough effort in others in general, like I'm done. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there are people that are just truly like nihilistic and like never really had faith in others to begin with. But when I hear things like that, to me, it just sounds like someone has already exhausted their capacity in some way, and it's much
Yeah,
more of a statement about like their experience rather than like people in general.
yeah, man. Because I've seen like you see it like all over the world, like every day. There's people on YouTube talking about how they like came back from their lowest lows. Like I've seen the
Yeah.
biggest fiends in life come become like the biggest beacons of hope. And
Hmm.
I refuse to believe that you can't like help people. Um and
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have our personal limits, so it's like that.
yeah, no, I get that.
Um, yeah, I think we do have to do better as a society of uplifting the the whole. Um,
Mm,
yeah, I think about this sometimes, like crypto, like 2016, 2017, especially like Ethereum kind of communities. There's very much like this idea about like a very different world. And you still see it a little bit in like I think it's what's his name? Owaki has like this solar punk vision. But this idea that if you can change the economic system, you can change like the entire way that society's organized and like um, just like our values, what we value, and like that really got lost. I mean, I think like the ICO era and just all the shit coins and then the Ethereum killers really kind of lost that in the Ethereum community. But I still feel like those like that kind of like 21st century kind of idealistic discourse is really important. I think like if we continue to see like crypto have this meteoric rise, like I think we're gonna get to a point where it's like, what do we do with all this money? Like what do we do?
yeah.
Like there was a thing where like somebody did the analysis that like if we get another 10x, like the majority of high net worth individuals will be like Bitcoiners, and it's
Mm,
like you know like money only takes you so far, and then like at some point you start to like question everything. I think it's like you give somebody power. um yeah, I hope we can do better. It's like post scarcity stuff. Like people have thought about this stuff for a long time.
right. Yeah, I love the post scarcity discussions because like I mean it's I always have a hard time even like defining it because like you can have you can have scarcity and non-scarcity on different levels. Like
Mm-hmm.
we don't have access to every like uh we don't have access to every like unit of like solar energy across the galaxy right now, but we do have access to our planet's sorry, our sun's energy. And like if
Mm-hmm.
everyone started extracting like solar energy from daylight, um, we would be in this sort of and combined with other methods of getting energy, renewable, clean energy for people, we'd be in this
Mm-hmm.
era where like electricity's, you know, like orders of magnitude easier to access. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's there's still scarcity in the strict tense, or the strict sense, but like it's relatively so cheap that people don't have to worry about it,
Mm-hmm.
or it doesn't keep people in poverty. And I think
Yeah.
there's lots of I think there's lots of like combining factors that if you like if you think hard about it, like we have lots of money and lots of manpower and lots of intelligence all around the world. Like we could solve homelessness overnight with the amount of money
Mm-hmm.
in America that with the amount of money that we spend like monthly on the military budget and a bunch of other budgets. You could like permanently solve homelessness overnight. Um, it's just like allocation of resources and like bad channels or like weak channels of communication. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to find like the signal over the noise in a lot of situations. So like I think if we can like improve, public goods, donations, impact attribution markets, stuff like that, we can really lift people out of poverty. And like that's what the crypto pioneers like the green people like Awaki are trying to do,
Yeah.
or like the people trying to make like warm DAOs, like DAOs that like um, that enrich people, and
Hmm.
just yeah, just like the like you said, like the idealism that existed, and that was popular for a time. Now it seems like it's not as it's just not as talked about as it what used to be. Like it's gone on to like institutional
Yeah.
growth, and like gambling, meme gambling, and like scaling, which are all like scaling is important, but like we we have we have these really great engineers and economists, um, and like people who are into governance, and they're all working at crypto. It's like we should really be like allocating money, like you said, like if we went 10x, like the majority of like all the highest net worth people would be Bitcoin holders, and then like what do we do with all this crypto money that we have?
Yeah.
Like a lot, it should it stays into this like rotating cycle of like trading crypto coins, taking profits, putting
Hmm.
it back into the big crypto coins, and then repeating and just
Yeah.
making more and more money. Um, I think like the space kind of needs like an attitude adjustment, but that's just my personal view. Like there could be a lot of good counterpoints for that, but
Yeah.
I do
I
think,
think there's certain virtue to capitalism. I think maybe we like we're like in the midst of rediscovering it. We're like almost like this. Um, it's like I know like there's a lot of talk about like debasement of USD, but maybe like all this is like rebasement of like our global financial system, and like crypto is like taking like crypto is like in a significant part of that rebasement. Um, but that I guess that virtue of capitalism, of like the idea of like uplifting people and like bringing prosperity, like maybe that like the rebasement is just like um the system trying to rebalance itself, because the
the
process you're
process.
oh, it's echoing. The process you're talking about is very odd. Like just thinking about this like infinite money hack that basically has been created, and it doesn't seem like it's slowing down or stopping. Like it seems like we now see the cycles of this. Like even though there's volatility, like the cycles seem like I think we've got some pretty good empirical evidence that it will continue. And like what does that mean? Like to your point, like what do we do with all this money? And I think like the optimist in me says that this is capitalism, like um absorbing like what is kind of like a sick capitalistic system, where it's like it's not functioning the way that capitalist systems have functioned in the past. Like we've gotten into some state where the system is not functional, but crypto is this like infinite money hack that capitalism is like healing itself by creating lots more money that's like allocated into different people's hands. But ultimately we need to revert back to this steady state of capitalism that is about like generating prosperity and lifting up the whole.
Yeah, well, you talk about debasement, and like Bitcoin is pretty much the opposite of being debased. So I didn't want to sound too pessimistic about like why aren't we being more ideal and helping more people, because like just giving people an option to escape like inflation and debasement is like a huge net positive to the world.
Well,
Um,
let me just interrupt you there, because the thing I don't think that we talk enough about is that we are also like creating new money, even though it's through a different like means. like it's still more dollars being created in the world. And like that, like every time a meme coin is started and like the, you know, 2% of the supply is trading, but you get like $1 billion valuation, like that's new money like being created in the world. And like it is very different from like the Fed, but I think like on a long enough timeline, I think we will feel the inflation induced by the, you know, trillions of dollars of crypto money like being created. And it's almost like, but to your point, it allows people the ability to participate in the, I like rebasement instead of debasement because it's like it's just less charged. But it, you know, to your point, it does allow people to participate, which I think really can make, you know, a world of difference in kind of like writing how, you know, capitalism has kind of gone awry.
Yeah, I mean, so like the way I look at it is that um, each crypto asset that's minted is its own circle, and it has its own participants and its own um, unit of account. So like BTC, I can't I can't like give someone um, a meme coin. I can't give someone Retardio and expect them to accept it as BTC.
Sure.
So it's like there's more money being made, but if your money's in Bitcoin, it's not like literally being diluted by the creation of other assets. Like
No.
your percentage of the Bitcoin economic bandwidth stays the same.
Yes, but the overall effect of like if you I don't know. I guess I've kind of thought about this intuition, but probably not enough to go deeper into it. Like that you know, so we have to look at like the like total assets in the world and the, like what percentage of that is retardio and like what percentage of that makes its way into other assets and like overall impact of like this new money. But yeah, I get what you're saying that, you know, Bitcoin or other like blue chips, they kind of stand on their own.
Yeah, I mean, we used to talk about this a lot, like back in 2017. Like everyone was talking about like the fact that there will be millions and millions of cryptocurrencies
Hmm.
and what that'll look like. And it's just like, like there's countless stocks in the world, and it's
Yeah.
um like GameStop having a stock doesn't depreciate the value of Apple's stock. Um,
Hmm.
and like similarly, like we can have millions and millions of coins. Like we're starting to see on Solana, basically every celebrity has like a spoof,
Yeah. A
like
misspelled
yeah,
coin.
a misspelled version of themselves, and people are just like trading on it. So it's like celebrities' popularity is being organically like traded on, and it's not like the
Hmm.
celebrities, as far as we know, are the ones minting the tokens. So it's
Hmm.
happening in a pretty like decentralized manner too. But
Hmm.
I think my point is that like um, it's not, maybe I don't know if this is the right counter argument to make, but it's not zero sum. Like the value of Retardio and the value of Bitcoin can both keep going up,
Hmm.
but you're kind of saying that just more money in general, more crypto in
Yeah.
general, like like dollar purchasing power amount of crypto, that number
Yep.
is going up constantly. And I think that's
Yeah.
because I think it's because demand's going up though. So like demand can sustain it.
Yeah. That makes sense. You still have the same, assuming that crypto doesn't introduce new goods and services, which I think eventually it would. It would. You know, NFTs were kind of an example of this, but they ended up being a financial scheme for the most part. You know, so far. But as long as your goods and services in the world holds constant, if you have more dollars of value or more like these are dollar denominated things that can be exchanged for dollars that then can be exchanged for goods and services, Like as long as your goods and services hold constant in the presence of like increasing capital, then you get inflation. Um, once money starts to move, um, and that I think, yeah, it's only I think once like the like hyper Bitcoinization to me started to become like, oh shit, like this might actually happen. Like this thought started to become real. Also, I think like the trillions of printing like during COVID, like like we can look at like the number of like it happening, but then when we start to see those dollars make their way into the world, like now, and you can really feel like when you
when
introduce more
you
capital into the economy, what happens? Yeah, I think it will have like it will have an effect. I don't know what it looks like, but to me it seems like if crypto continues to ascend, like we will see inflation induced into the world as a result. I don't know if there's some flaw in my understanding there, so I guess I'll caveat all that with that. But I don't think I've really heard anyone else mention this before. You there?
Yeah, can you still hear me? I think I'm
yeah.
disconnected.
I got you now.
Okay, so my counterpoint, I think to make it as simple, it's probably not even a counterpoint because you probably agree, but this is probably kind of what you were talking about. But like, assuming that like inflation does happen, let's say like the inflation for like crypto dollar value, like the supply of that is like 2% or even like 10, I don't know, like 10% a year or something like that. Like the total market cap of crypto going up 10%. But if the demand is going up like 50%, it makes the assets go up in value because if demand outpaces supply, price goes up.
Yeah,
so it's like
no, that makes sense.
Inflation is logical and real, but like, yeah, I mean, it just really depends on demand.
Yeah, I mean, you can think about like, yeah, it's like if you had, it's almost like if we had like a silver based economy and then someone discovered gold and people were like, well, gold is superior money, like we want more gold, and then like the more gold that came into the economy, like you have more money. But like the base that you started with for your money that can buy goods and services was silver, and now you have this more money. But to your point, it is. I mean, I've been shocked at the demand. You look at like all this BlackRock stuff. It's like yeah. It's go back.
Yeah.
Just pick a number. Go back however many years you want. Whether it's 1 or it's 10. I mean, it's like unthinkable the way that things are going, and it does show that there is demand for this stuff. At least for the quality assets. I think some of the, I don't know, I don't want to name any names or call out anyone specifically, but it does seem like there are a lot of these things that are just kind of like these shell games over time, and like maybe the technology is doomed, but the asset will trade, for a while, and like there's so many like zombie coins from previous eras, but I think those, I don't know what becomes of those assets, but definitely for the quality ones that everyone likes.
Yeah, I mean, like some people would argue Bitcoin Core's technology is doomed, and it's still like the biggest store of value in crypto.
Yeah, it doesn't need the TCP/IP. If you really wanted to put on your big brain hat, you're like, oh, well, I could improve this. It could be better, but no, it does what it needs to do. So I think there's certain like elegance to it all, and I think if you tick those boxes and people get network effects, I'm like, sure it works. But I think a lot of things are just like they're technologies that will never get adoption.
Yeah, but I know a lot of B cachers and a couple of BSV maxis even who like totally disagree and say that it doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
Well, but it's it's I see. Yeah, from like the original research.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're just like their logic isn't overcomplicated or irrational either. It's just like, look,
No.
I can't expect to pay for a cup of coffee with Bitcoin when transactions are
Yeah.
$15.
Yeah.
But like, if you meant like it does what it's supposed to do as in terms of a store of value, then yeah,
Yeah, for like if you just pick your assessment point is like today, you're just like how well does this system function for like what we want it to do like in this moment when you have like BlackRock pouring billions of dollars into it on a daily basis.
yeah,
And like then you can have the conversation about like, well, really, Satoshi had these ideas and this is really what it was
right,
intended for, and a better system would be like this. But I think that like where those guys run aground is that like sure you can build a better system to like for payments, but that's not going to necessarily get you asset appreciation. And like I think that's the real logical jump that I see happen, especially in BSV. I think BCH is like a little more like I don't know, muted about these things, but BSV, I mean, they believe that the coin will flip BTC because of the superior payments technology in their opinion, and it's like that. Like technology really doesn't equal appreciation. I think being the forgotten altcoin for a long time, like I think we know
yeah,
that better than anyone.
yeah. Well,
Um, yeah.
it's like BTC is like doing what it needs to do in terms of being like a strong, robust anchor with high security and decentralization. And like it goes back to user experience. Like people just want to be able to send their Bitcoin cheaply, and there's plenty of options for that. There may be trade-offs compared to doing it on layer one and paying a $15 fee, but they exist. Like plenty of people use like different methods of like getting around fees, whether it be going custodial, layer two, whatever, just off chain. Um,
Yeah, but I understand their pain. I guess I don't understand it completely, but I get where they're coming from because like I got into Bitcoin because I thought it would be cool for moving money around like in a digital world, and like thankfully like CKB came along and like all that like interest like goes here, so I'm not so caught up on like Bitcoin being not for that. Um, yeah, in this sorry, I'm gonna have to go in a minute, but for some reason on this front I feel like much better about Bitcoin's prospects than Ethereum, and I don't quite know what that is. Maybe it's UTXOs and just they offer these things to be a little more practical, but like high fees on Ethereum feel very different to me than high fees on Bitcoin. I don't quite know why.
Yeah, I mean, I can accept a high fee on Bitcoin because, like, I know that the consensus, the pivot to being a store of value,
Hmm.
minimizing decentralization, keeping the block limit. But, like, with Ethereum, they promised that they would scale. So that's probably why it's, like, annoying that the fees are getting so high because it's like they're not doing what they said they would.
Hmm.
But I got to get going as well, so it's perfect timing
Okay.
anyway. And I actually wrote down a bunch of stuff to cover, so maybe we could hop on later, like next week or something.
Yeah,
Because
that'd be great.
I wrote like 15 topics down that we could do like rapid fire, like short 5 minute whatever's. So like people can tune in, get a bunch of like direct Nervos information for like 30 minutes straight. Um,
Yeah.
rapid fire update and coverage of all the greatest stuff. Uh,
Okay.
favorites.
Awesome.
But yeah, great point to cut it off.
All right. Well, great to talk to you, William. Have a good evening. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
See ya.